country's main concerns. A recent OCTA survey shows that inflation remains as the top concern among Filipinos. 65% of the respondents said controlling the increase in basic commodity prices is their urgent concern. 40% said their top concern is affordable food, followed by wage increase, poverty reduction, and free quality education. Meanwhile, the top three urgent personal concerns are health, food, and education. Now, to get more information about this, we have OCTA Research Fellow Professor Guido David via Zoom joining us today.
Good morning, Professor Guido.
Yes, good morning, Angela and Angelo, and good morning sa mga viewers and listeners natin on our SONA Day today.
Yes, Prof, let's get right to it now. What were the national issues ba during the survey na we can consider as factors sa resulta?
Well, actually, marami tayong issues during the survey period, which was conducted June 26 to July 1, 2024, nationwide survey, 1,200 respondents. But yung inflation, although bumaba ng konting inflation, I think it's nasa 3% na lang, it's still above the healthy level of, or the normal level of 2%. So that means even though as you na-mention nyo kanina, nagkaroon ng wage hike, hindi pa rin nakakasabay yung salary increases or yung minimum wage hike dun sa pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin. So that's why we're seeing siguro continued pa rin, although bumaba siya slightly from our previous quarter. Previous quarter, it was actually at 66%. Ngayon, 65% of Filipinos considered controlling the increase in prices of basic goods and services as the number one national concern, followed by access to affordable food like rice, vegetables, and meat, and then increasing wages or salaries of workers, and then creating more jobs and reducing poverty, 28%.
I'd like to ask lang about yung inflation because although yung inflation natin numbers medyo bumabagal, no, Prof? Pero if you take a look at the numbers also, it remains high pa rin yung food inflation specifically. So do you think you mentioned food prices remain high, so do you think yung food inflation na ito is one of the primary concerns that we are seeing for most Filipinos now?
It's definitely a primary concern, and hopefully the president will be able to address this during his SONA, what steps we're taking. The administration has already undertaken many steps towards making the price of yung rice in particular more affordable.
That's right.
But it's still higher now. I mean, it's still high, especially for the average Filipino. Now they're coping with their budgets and making ends meet.
If you break down the survey, Prof, yung inflation nga, since inflation yung top concern, saan ba mas mataas yung concern ng inflation? Sa Luzon ba, sa Visayas, or sa Mindanao?
Actually, sa Mindanao, pinakamataas at 71% of respondents saying inflation is the primary concern, and relatively mas mababa sa NCR, 59%. Also sa D, pinakamataas siya, 66%, whereas sa ABC, 59%. So you can see na obviously mas affected yung lower socio-economic classes. That's obvious. Pero sa Mindanao, for some reason, they're also more affected by yung inflation and even by other factors. That's their primary concern talaga, yung inflation. Oh,
it's also nga po alarming din kasi yung parang late last year ng 2023 and earlier of this year, ang sinasabi po dun sa mga nakaraang survey, yung Mindanao po, yung medyo mas mataas-taas yung yung ang tawag dito, hindi nila kino-consider yung self nila na kulang sa pagkain because yun yung they can produce their own food, 'di ba? Pero right now, dun po base po sa inyong survey, meron po silang problema doon din pagdating sa pagkain. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's true. Kumaga, food security should be higher in Mindanao because yung farms nila, I mean, a lot of the farms are there. But at the same time, 41% of respondents did say na yung access to affordable food like rice, vegetables, and meat is higher. In our previous survey, Angela and Angelo, ang isang lumabas na results to sa self-rated poverty naman ay is actually high, very high in Mindanao.
Yes.
About 70% in, about 7 out of 10 people from Mindanao, whereas it was relatively lower in Metro Manila and Balanced Luzon, nasa 30% lang. So this disparity means na siguro we need more resources pooled sa Mindanao. Sometimes it happens na yun nga, yung resources may be not efficiently utilized sa Mindanao for some reason. So we need to address those concerns and yun siguro yung reason kung bakit medyo nahirapan yung mga Mindanao.
Right. And lastly, Prof, nakita ko rin kasi sa survey yung merong percentage din na pagtaas ng mga they consider themselves mga newly poor.
Self-rated poverty.
Oo, 'di ba? So, ano po ba yung circumstances? Bakit po nagkaroon ng pagtaas ngayon ng mga newly poor sa sector?
Well, yun nga, sometimes the allocation of resources may not be, fully utilized or efficiently utilized in some areas. And so maybe jobs and opportunities are not as abundant in some areas. Kasi syempre, sometimes we know that kung meron tayong mga local governments who are getting resources, then, mas nagbo-boom yung economy. There's more construction, there's more infrastructure projects, and this creates more jobs. So maybe there's less of it in Mindanao right now.
Right.
Kasi as opposed to kunyari ng previous administration, the president was from Mindanao. So obviously, if the president is from Mindanao, then they will
Mas
make
malapit
sure
sa
that
kusina.
yes, parang ganon. But not so in this case. So yun nga, hopefully yun nga ma-address yan ng ating president in the zona.
All right. Thank you, Professor Guido David of OCTA Research for joining us this morning on Brunch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.